Now, another instalment in my endless series on the left and hypocrisy. This episode unfolding over Israel, a likely topic, at Adelaide's Writers' Week. As the Oz reports, PricewaterhouseCoopers is the latest company to give Writers' Week the flick over some speakers who spout hateful and ludicrous views on Israel and Ukraine. The firm said to its staff in an email that it condemns in the strongest terms any anti-Semitic comments and any suggestion of support for Russia's war against Ukraine. We stand with the Jewish and Ukrainian communities who have been understandably hurt by this issue, the company says. So they've demanded that PwC's Adelaide Festival sponsorship dollars go nowhere near Writers' Week. This comes after Australia's biggest law firm, Minter Ellison, and a French multinational Capgemini scrapped their funding, and 3 Ukrainian writers also withdrew from the festival event. Now, this is all understandable given the billing included Palestinian American writer Susan Abulhawa, who said it's possible to be a Jewish and or a Nazi at the same time. It's called Israel. She also accused Ukraine's Jewish President Volodymyr Zelensky of trying to ignite World War III, while saying Russian President Vladimir Putin is trying to denazify Ukraine. As you know, the South Australian Premier also boycotted. He told us why.
I think I'm free to express an opinion and take a strong stance on matters that I feel I have a strong conviction about, whether it be anti-Semitism or indeed standing up for Ukraine.
So this is people exercising their free will, protesting by pulling out of Writers' Week. You know, like some artists did with the Sydney Writers' Festival last year because there was some funding from Israel.
First, though, Sarah Saleh, a Palestinian poet and writer, and one of the leaders of this campaign, which is being led by the Australian Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions Movement.
And as an artist myself, I understand that people have lost work, especially, having been underfunded or not supported in 2 years of a pandemic. It's a really painful time. And I think that's what's most egregious in all of this, that Sydney Festival has put us in this really quite inconsiderate and untenable position. For us as a campaigning team and as organizers, we are here trying to build a movement and a future that is one that is built on freedom and liberation and love and equality for everybody.
Love and equality, hey? That's the same Sarah Saleh, Get Up director and Arab Australian human rights activist, who is chairing an Adelaide session that includes Palestinian poet Mohammed El-Kurd, who has described Israel as demonic, sadistic and a death cult, accused Zionists of eating the organs of Palestinians and lusting for Palestinian blood, and repeatedly likened Israel to a Nazi regime. Utterly depraved, but that won't stop Saleh having a cosy little chat with him. And don't forget, she's the real victim here, tweeting last week, every time we Palestinians are platformed, the pro-Israel lobby does everything in its power to defame and silence us. Then there's Palestinian Egyptian author, academic and human rights advocate Randa Abdel Fattah. She's in a tiz about the boycott, tweeting the racist demand made on Palestinians by Minter Ellison and PwC Australia, who have withdrawn sponsorship from Adelaide Writers' Week. 1, embrace the occupier, coloniser and accept Zionism, or 2, you're an anti-Semite. Now, contrast that with what Abdel Fattah wrote in January last year about objections to Israeli sponsorship in Sydney. Calling the Sydney Festival boycott censorship is a disingenuous attempt by those in power to silence Palestinians. We made it clear artists and arts organisations, fundamental partners in any arts festival, felt betrayed by the Sydney Festival, she wrote. Finally, we pointed out this partnership denied artists an environment of cultural safety, leaving artists, creatives and companies with no choice but to withdraw. In other words, the right to boycott is good for me, but not for thee. Now, as I told you last week, there's a long list of ABC presenters, past and present, appearing in Adelaide. Dozens of them, including Sean McAuliffe, Sarah Ferguson, Louise Milligan and Jonathan Green. Evidently, they're not worried about rubbing shoulders with anti-Semites and Putin apologists. And ABC comedian Tom Ballard speaks at the festival on Sunday. Last week, Ballard tweeted about the Writers' Week boycott. Bit weird, but seems like the usual pro-free speech, anti-cancel culture, anti-woke capital, anti-BDS crowd aren't losing their minds over this. Aha, you see? Sounds like he's a free speech advocate. Understandable for a comedian. But is this the same Tom Ballard that took this stance last year against Israel?
It was meant to be the harbour city's grand cultural comeback, but Sydney Festival's already lost more than 25 acts due to a boycott led by pro-Palestinian group Artists Against Apartheid. Among those to pull out of the festival, comedian Tom Ballard.
I love the festival and I love telling jokes, but standing up for human rights and standing against a system of apartheid is more important.
The hypocrisy is breathtaking, isn't it? He loves telling jokes and standing up for human rights. Well, some people's human rights, I guess, and being a standing joke.